Hello and welcome to another episode of the HLS Podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Ritter. You can call me ND Tex. And as always, you can catch us live over on twitch.tv/ForLittleSons. Of course, you can find us in podcast form over on Anchor and just about any other podcast medium that you can find. We are always on Discord as well, herlittlesons.com/Discord. Come by and chat with us. And of course, our good old home on the internet, herlittlesons.com. And with that, it is time to introduce Shane, or reintroduce. We're doing a bunch of reintroductions during fall camp right now.
Yeah. First and foremost, I'm just excited that season is back. But in terms of reintroduction, I'm gonna let my usual work do the talking.
Yeah, and I think you have some usual, not just from the audio medium, but from the video medium coming up soon.
Yeah, no. So that's exactly right. So basically, I know in the past couple of years, the video churning out has had like ups and downs. You know, obviously with records and with life. Things get out of whack, but
technical setups too. That we have that issue.
Setup also definitely screwed me big time. But now that we're essentially back in the modern era and we have the ability to stream everything to screens and screen capture all that stuff, we're going back. I'm coming back in full swing. I'm doing videos all year. I'm gonna go for it. I'm gonna set myself that goal that I did. Maybe the only first time I did that right was like 2014 or 2015. But we got a video in the hopper. That's going to be my reintroducing myself, and then for the season we're going to put something together for every game. So.
I'm definitely looking forward to it. Looking back for all of us getting the swing of things, and we got a great show to kick things back off. I was at the Solid Verbal Fantasy Things Draft Live over here in DFW. So I got a chance to talk to Ty Hildenbrandt. I also got to talk with a gentleman. People around DFW will know the name Sean Bass. For those of you that don't know, he is the sports director of the most popular sports radio station in our area, The Ticket, and found out he was actually a Notre Dame fan. So we had a like last minute interview to have him on. It was one of those small world moments, but we're going to get to that. Do want to kind of, because we have no idea when people are joining back up, and part of the reason we're doing the whole reintroduction thing is because we've changed schedules, lives, formats, all kinds of different stuff. So we wanted to make sure we were really clear on what was coming out, so that way you can adjust your schedules accordingly. So as far as the podcast goes, we do record live on Twitch, and we did that to kind of do something different. And if you've been on the podcast for a while, you know that's not going to change what we do with the podcast. Everything we do will stay in the podcast. But we do encourage you to come into the chat. We love the interaction. We try to go live around 9 p.m. Central Time, 10 p.m. Eastern on the days we record, which are Wednesday. If we're going in a game week, Wednesday I do picks with ND Eddie Mack. We get our degenerate on, and
really bad.
It's really bad, and hail to the altar of pray to the altar of Gambler. Thursday, the ever popular, most accurate sim ever to determine Notre Dame games, the NCAA sim, will be back.
The best time we have all week.
It is awesome. I am already looking forward to it. I'm going to run a couple test ones, and we got a little something charity tie-in I'll mention a little bit later. That's kind of our twist on the weekly preview. We will talk other college football as well, but the focus is on that sim. And Sundays, which is tonight, we do have the weekly recap show. Obviously, we're in week 0 right now. We're really week -1. So we're going to be recapping what we saw at the Solid Verbal, what I saw with those interviews. But this is officially the kickoff. We will do replays 11 a.m. Central Time, noon Eastern on this channel if you'd like to see the video and interact with chat as well. But everything will be up podcast next morning, if at all possible, unless I have severe technical issues or I don't know. Some of these may happen post-game. That is the one caveat. If Notre Dame plays a night game, we figure let's just roll through it.
Or if he has to get another horrible drink from donations on Extra Life, who knows?
Yeah, and speaking of Extra Life, so I'm gonna jump around in the outline here, Shane.
Sure.
I have actually connected the Extra Life donations to our channel, so if anything ever hits, it is extralife.ndtext.com. We will be alerted and we will know about it. But it is particularly important because if you donate $5 or more to extralife.ndtext.com, which benefits the Oklahoma. The Children's Hospital Foundation of Oklahoma City. $5 donation there. We're going to do a special. Last year, Shane and I did a run through on our own while we got used to this thing. We're going to do it again, and we're actually going to open that up to donors. It'll be a private stream, so donations come in, and every dollar that is donated counts as a point towards your team that you want to see Notre Dame play. Right now, we got Alabama, of all people, in the lead with 42 points.
What?
Followed by Boise State with 37.7 because Jude was kind enough to donate in cents.
Okay.
And Auburn is 37 points right now. So every dollar is a point. $5. It's interesting. I think Milfy made that Bama donation. Interesting how there's a $5 difference there. I appreciate where your head's at, Milfy. Trying to get he's helping me fish here. I like that. I like that a lot.
No, he's just counteracting the oversigning. Get a little extra.
All right, but yeah, we will have that on Extra Life. And speaking of, well, there is, and if you hear that sound, the Zelda fanfare. So the fish is caught. So now Boise State has the $42.37.
Speak of, and ye shall see.
Very nice. Thank you, Jude, for that. Again, it all goes to a great cause, helping kids fight cancer. Do this in honor of Avon. I have some posts around. You can also go to my personal channel, twitch.tv/NDTex. Also some notes about Twitch. For those of you that don't know reasons why to come here, it is for stuff like that. We have alerts. Twitch has something called Bit, so if you cheer, you can actually inject audio read by text-to-speech, which means you can throw whatever the hell you want. We will still interact with chat every single time.
We got that a
lot. But yeah, if you want to throw your words in there, go for it.
Please.
Yeah, absolutely. And so we have that going on. Also, definitely give us a follow. Subs also welcome. If you're an Amazon Prime member, that is actually free. Oh god, I got stuff crashing around me. We are in mid-season form right now.
Already crashes.
It's already crashing. This is awful. Nothing too critical yet. We'll see what happens there. I'm trying to bring up the outline here while I keep vamping. So we have that going on as well. And want to talk a little bit for the podcast part because we are on a new provider. You've likely heard the ad. We are on a provider called Anchor. And what that does is there's a couple little interesting things. We do have a support page that's on our public page. If you would prefer, instead of doing the Twitch sub thing, which gets money towards us, you can just bypass everything and do it straight there. That is one way to help support the show. The other thing that you can do there is we have the ability to leave a voicemail, and this will work on the app on your phone. It will also work through the web client there as well. It'll use the mic on your computer. We have no idea what we'll do with it. Leave a voicemail. We'll figure it out. I don't know if it's going to end up quite like what the Solid Verbal. They're very well-tuned montage is, but hey, we'll go with it. We'll see what happens there.
Yeah, just say stuff at us, please.
Absolutely. The final piece of business before we actually get kicked off into the show proper is iTunes reviews. Please, please, please. These are very important. Even if you don't listen to us on iTunes and you do something else, if you have the ability to leave a review, please do so. I'm actually going to do my due diligence. I've had it on my notes to do for a while to leave reviews on a lot of our friends that have either appeared on the show or shows that I listen to, because I know that is important. We had one up there. Shane, do you still have the outline up? Because it has crashed on mine. Could you please read that review?
So the last review we got was on November 10th last year, and the header of it is really, kind of humbling. It says stellar. And it goes on to say, get my ND fixed multiple days a week during college football season via the good folks at the HLS podcast. Between their coverage of the Irish, their national weekly picks, as well as the EA/NCAA sims, there's no shortage of entertaining content. Keep up the good work, fellas. Go Irish.
Well, thank you very much. We definitely appreciate that. Very kind words. We appreciate that.
Heartwarming stuff. You know what I would like? More.
Yes, definitely get more. We will, and I'm actually, thankfully, Apple changed the website, so the reviews are much easier for me to find now. Because yes, they are. Where I can go in a web browser. I don't have to deal with iTunes anymore, which was really if you want to peek behind the curtain, that's why I didn't do it as much, because iTunes is garbage. I don't have a Mac, and it is really slow on Windows. So that was the main reason why. But that is not why we're here, though, Shane.
Nope.
We're hitting the ground running. Because of especially my crazy schedule, hard to get guests on, but we were able to snag 2 interviews, and of course, probably the biggest one is Mr. Ty Hildenbrandt, of course, of Solid Verbal fame. Nice. So if you listen to the show, you know that they did not only the Live Fantasy Things draft, but he was in Austin the day before, had some breakfast tacos with Dan and company in Austin, drove up to my area, and as soon as he got there, he checked in and he walked down into the lobby and was able to talk with me. So it's a very fun interview. We tried to preview the season in the lens of the Fantasy Things draft. So it's a little bit of a different take, but a lot of fun. And Shane, what do you think? Should we just get into this? Just dive right in?
I mean, yeah, why not?
Yeah. Only thing I will note, I did mention you can cheer and inject text. For these interviews, since they can't react, we're going to save some potential awkwardness, so they will be muted for here, but they will come back on when Shane and I are talking. But let's go ahead and get into an interview with Ty Hildenbrandt of the Solid Verbal.
Nice.
All right, so I am now joined by Ty Hildenbrandt of the Solid Verbal, and he is down here in my fair burg over in the DFW area, gracing us with the College Football Things Live Fantasy Draft. Ty, thanks for being able to come out here.
Thank you, sir. It's a pleasure to finally meet you.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to meet you.
Is it weird for you when you meet people like that you just primarily converse with on Twitter or through some digital channel?
It
you
is.
Like meet them in person, and it's like, wow, there's a person there.
Yes, there is. Yeah. It's awesome because it's like, yeah, there's a person there. And then the weirder part is the people I don't get to interact with as much coming up and saying hi. That's the weirder one because I'm like, oh, I haven't yet recognized you, but excited to meet. So I know you're going to get some of that coming to this show as well.
Yeah, we will. We're excited to meet people who support the show.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Yeah, it's a fun time.
Yeah, let's not bury the lead, though, Ty, because you were in Austin last night. And came up here, and you made a beautiful Texas stop over at Buc-ee's.
Yes. Yes.
All right, so at the audio medium, and I don't have pictures and everything on the stream. So for those of you that don't know, Buc-ee's, think of a mall, your regular strip mall. Make it a gas station.
It's like a Cabela's meets a Costco.
It really does, with gas pumps.
with 80 gas pumps. We talked to some people in Austin. They said, no, there's 80 gas pumps there. It may be the biggest gas station in America. If not, I can't imagine there ever needs to be one bigger. But no, the best way I could describe it, and the way I'll probably will end up describing it tonight, since I'm sure we'll talk about Buc-ee's, because it was a transformational experience. It's like if you built a gas station in Sim City. That's what Buc-ee's is like. It's enormous.
It's perfect.
Dan and I did the tourist thing. We got the T-shirts. We're good to go. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad Dan, being an Oregon Duck, could put aside his natural, distaste for beavers for that one day to walk through a Buc-ee's in there with the beaver paraphernalia everywhere. But all right, we got to talk a little bit food, of course. So you had tacos this morning.
I did.
Yeah, so breakfast tacos.
Yeah, Pueblo Viejo. I'd been there once before when we were down here for South by Southwest. And they've since moved locations, but it's like apparently one of the best breakfast tacos you can get in Austin. And it didn't disappoint back then. It didn't disappoint today. So glad we were able to go back.
Well, I will tell you, if you have a hankering for them again, it's kind of like how the Deep South is with fried chicken. You got to find the gas stations.
Oh, yeah.
That's the way tacos are around here, too. Find the right gas station there.
I don't think you're going to find many bad tacos in the area.
No, not at all. Yeah, and Fuel City is like the one known here. So if anybody's down in DFW, check out Fuel City for sure. But if you see a little mom and pop taco shop, for sure. But one more important food question. Because I don't know if you've caught my bit on Twitter yet about this. Because I'm very passionate about my chili. So, Ty, I got to ask you, beans or no beans in chili?
Oh, you got to go beans.
Oh, Ty, you break my heart. Breaking my heart.
I didn't know there was a right answer.
Oh, well, a lot of people would disagree with me, especially with a lot of Notre Dame fans being in the Midwest.
Sure.
Go beans.
Well, let's put it this way. I'm not like... I don't have a strong opinion on the matter. Every chili dish I've had has had beans, but if you can make a good version of it without, then I'm all for that too.
Yeah, well, I mean, it is a very Texas thing to not do beans. So if you're ever in Austin again, and now you can throw some food facts at Dan, go tell him we got to stop by the Texas Chili Parlor down in Austin.
Texas Chili Parlor.
Yes,
all right.
That will get you a classic bowl of red. You can have everything from mild to it is going to burn your tongue off.
Okay.
So it is the place to go. Celebrities have been there. It's awesome. But let's talk about the real reason you're here. Let's talk about the college football fantasy things draft. That is a mouthful. Y'all pull that off a lot better than I do.
Yeah, we just call it fantasy things. We don't add the extra words. Yeah.
So what we're gonna do? I want to do a little bit of college football preview with this in mind, because now it's becoming a big deal. You're like NFL drafting this now. You got 2 nights, except 2 different cities. So I think now I would say Solid Verbal's got one up on the NFL with that in mind. So,
not quite the fanfare, but we're getting there. They do one city, we do 2. So we're constantly trying to one-up them.
Yeah, so let's preview the season through this lens, and we'll try to go through it. It's hard to be a draft pundit without seeing the board, because the board can shift a lot. But let's kind of first take a look at the big stories, the first rounders, because obviously you got the 150th anniversary of college football coming up this season. So we got a lot of retrospective stuff, a lot of stories around there. So do you see that being a big deal? Is that something you're looking for draft stories there?
Yeah, so the context for people who might listen to this and wonder, what is fantasy? What is that? We started drafting storylines as opposed to players a couple years ago. So fantasy football, you draft guys, do you have an imaginary team? We just figured that was kind of old hat in our world. So we decided instead of doing that, we wanted to draft storylines. And progressively over the course of maybe the last 4 or 5 years now, what tends to work really well is we pick specific things that we think will happen and or be talked about throughout broadcast media during the season. And that's what we did in our car ride up here on the way up to Dallas from Austin, put that together. So I think there will be a lot of fun stories that kind of fall out of the college football 150 thing that, to your point, yes, of course, will be talked about ad nauseum. But what we try to do with ours is be a little bit more specific and zoom in on very specific college football things that maybe won't get us a lot of points per se, if such things really exist in this world, but definitely things that fans gravitate towards and at least provide a good chuckle.
Well, I think you have a whole subreddit keeping score, though, or attempting to keep score.
They tried last year. I don't know how well I don't know if they were able to pull it off throughout the full course of the year, but yeah, it's a good time. Everyone gets into it, and we're excited about the next 2 days.
Yeah. So speaking of, broad narratives and then trying to narrow it down, one of the things that stood out to me is, you got the transfer portal, but even a subset of that, transfer QBs. Just a few names that I wrote down. You got Tate Martell, who just lost his job after transferring, so he maybe the third school's a charm. You got Kelly Bryant, who's now at Mizzou, Justin Fields at Ohio State, Brandon Wimbush, former Notre Dame, now at UCF, Jalen Hurts at OU, and even Shea Patterson, year 2 in Michigan. Is there any one of those storylines that you're seeing there that might latch onto? Because it's always like the transfer QB is going to turn us around, and it just doesn't happen.
I wouldn't say so much from the transfer QB angle, but you know how this is. Anything is around long enough. We see it with the playoff a little bit. Anything's around long enough, and the hot takes just sort of percolate. And now this transfer portal thing. Look, I've been doing the college football podcast, if you want to call it media thing, since 2008. And it wasn't until last year I heard about a transfer portal. Maybe I'm late to the party. That could well be the case. But now that this thing has really rose to prominence, or at least public consciousness, very, very quickly, the hot takes are starting to bubble back up here. And so from our standpoint, I think it's going to be less about which quarterbacks will make an impact, or which quarterbacks, in the case of Tate Martell, did or didn't win their jobs. From our perspective, it will be more a matter of how do people view the transfer portal? Like, what is the general sentiment, both among like younger fans who follow college football versus like older, crotchetier sports writers?
I can hear Dan from his hotel room trying to sit here and like play the Notre Dame music bit now.
it's good. The transfer portal isn't going away, and it's definitely something that we're gonna keep our eye on. Maybe in night 2 of our fantasy things.
Oh, all right. So a little bit of something I won't get a hold of until I actually get to download the episode. So I got something to look forward to there. But yeah, and another specific one as far as like your blue chipper picks that I see. God, Urban Meyer rumors has to be around there somewhere, right? I mean, that seems like a slam dunk.
Yeah, you sort of got me smiling with that one. Yeah, I can neither confirm nor deny, but look, it's going to be the undercurrent for at least one major West Coast school that plays in LA for the duration of their season, depending how things go. So Urban Meyer, I think, will maybe not on his own will, will be dragged kicking and screaming into the college football consciousness.
Yeah, it's funny because even in my own notes, trying to make this draft pundit board of things that shift everywhere, I think I had about 5 different threads and storylines that could have been there.
We did too. And it was hard, honestly, to try and spot shadow one of them that we thought would be a little bit more exciting to discuss than the others. You know, we're trying to do a live show with this. People pay money to come and see the show, which is an incredible privilege and a cool thing that we're able to do. And so our mantra is we're just trying to have everyone out there at the show have a good time. And so that tends to sway which direction we go with some of our topics.
All right. Well, you mentioned West Coast, so let's talk a little bit about West Coast. You called it on Twitter when I had mentioned I have no idea who I'm going to pick there. I still don't. I got to pick a winner here come Wednesday. I have no idea where I'm going there. You called it a demolition derby, which makes for all kinds of interesting storylines. But sitting here and thinking, I'm wondering, is it the Larry Scott hot seat? Because the Pac-12 is just... I don't even know how to describe it, Ty. It's just a mess. And the games, maybe they'll kick off in the morning. Maybe they'll be on TV. Maybe they're on a Pac-12 network. Maybe a cable company will have it. What are you seeing there in the Pac-12 as far as storylines that are of interest to you in this draft?
Well, the demolition derby aspect of it is sort of interesting because you've got a loaded north half of the conference that everyone knows about. And then in the bottom half, it's USC and kind of Utah. There's some other interesting storylines, but Utah really is the one that jumps out because they may have an easier path to get to that Pac-12 championship game. It does have the feel of the North killing itself off, and then some team from the South being able to match up with that squad, whoever it is, if it's Washington or Oregon, in the Pac-12 championship. And it's just like the demolition derby analogy actually plays pretty well because like a lot of times the flashier cars are the ones that get destroyed, and the one that's just sort of built like a tank and very dependable, that's the one that emerges. That's probably Utah.
I was like, it sounds like you're describing Utah.
Yeah, like it doesn't go the fastest, doesn't look the coolest, but it's reinforced with steel and good on the lines, and it'll run until you make it die.
Yeah, and flashy. We all know about that Southern Cal hype train as well.
Yes. Now the USC hype train, it never seems to run out of coal.
No, not at all. All right, so let's kind of shift to the ACC a little bit. I mean, it's one of those things to where it's very chalky as far as, projecting things goes. It's probably Clemson and everybody else. Virginia seems to be a darling. Virginia Tech apparently was almost falling apart last year, and turkey bacon being the thing that brought peace to everybody. Bud Foster's retiring. And, man, I take a look at this, and all I could see here, and here's my literal note, Ty. Dabo good old boy stories is what I have. Because it seems like there's a media infatuation about him, and
I'll say this, and then that's kind of the story. But I think my story, I don't know if it's something we'll address this year. I could definitely see in 2020 Dabo's shtick being something that we discuss, because it's like, and you know this with any great success of a program, any great continued success. Whatever shtick the coach, or in like if you want to use Tim Tebow's case as an example, like he didn't have like a conscious shtick, he's just a nice guy. But after a while, it sort of wears people thin, and I could see that happening with Dabo, especially since he's got this juggernaut led by Trevor Lawrence. Recruiting has been unbelievable. No one's even close outside of Alabama and maybe Georgia. So it's going to be another good year for Clemson.
The overexposure, I think, is the best thing.
Yeah,
there. And that happens when you get good.
Overexposed Dabo Swinney is an interesting title for a slide.
So there we go. Maybe I am a year too early on this, but some Notre Dame circles. Maybe it's because we're still got some fresh wounds there, but we're still wondering how.
Here.
Yeah, how Dabo kind of gets this lovely pass. But let's move on. There's more football to talk about. The SEC, goodness, you have all kinds of fun things here. I got a sleeper pick here. I don't know if this is on your board or not, but beer sales getting mentioned at any point in time.
You know what? It's funny you mention that because last year on the cutting room floor for our Fantasy Things show that we did in Chicago, I had as an item like old man sports writer take on beer sales in stadiums. And I think the cat's kind of out of the bag now. I don't know if we'll get a lot of that. Lord knows there's seemingly an endless amount of hot takes for anything related to this. But no, I considered it last year. It was on the cutting room floor. And it's still a good thing in my book. But I think we have other stronger ones this year.
Yeah, I mean, the other things I see potentially getting beaten to death, mostly because it seems to be every year, Auburn and Gus Malzahn. Is he or isn't going to be the coach?
The hot seat, we did consider the Gus Malzahn rotating hot seat. It did not make the final list, but yes, it's the will he, won't he, constant state of limbo in Auburn is
the constant discontent down in the plains.
It's just like at any point a booster could provide $40 million to buy him out. Yeah.
All right, and in the Big 12, I mean, Ty, is Texas back?
Sam Ehlinger says that they're back after they won the Sugar Bowl. I don't know. I mean, they need a running game. They need to get bigger plays. They need to give Sam Ehlinger some support, but they're probably closer to being back than they have been in a while. But what is back really? It's just it's a construct among us college football fans.
It is the beautiful take that just keeps on giving, and it either works in it's one of those rare things. It works in the positive and in the negative as well. Because Texas is back was all over Twitter during the Sugar Bowl, and then whenever they fall on their face, it's there. It's right there waiting for you. It is there.
Yep.
Old dependable. Here's another one. I'm not sure if in there because Matt Campbell rumors at Iowa State. Always seems to be a hot name, and I've even heard a few preseason previews seeming to kind of pick that. Yeah. It's like, well, is he going to stick around? Is he going to go somewhere else?
I don't know. I think he's good enough to coach anywhere he wants. It wouldn't surprise me if the NFL came calling for Matt Campbell. He's young. He's clearly done a great job building up his roster at Iowa State. From our standpoint with doing this show, I'll just keep it in the context of that. The Urban Meyer rumors are a little bit more prominent. So it's hard to go Matt Campbell and Urban Meyer on the coaching rumors side. But I am very curious to see if he's at Iowa State much longer.
It's one of those things, like if we're going to compare this to fantasy football, it's almost like when you got tight ends, you got that one that you know is going to be dependable. But if you only rely on that one, you kind of got to have that backup that's there for that bye week as well. Matt Campbell seems to be my bye week coaching rumor.
Yeah. Okay. That works. Yeah.
All right. Let's move to the Big Ten, and then we'll get to Notre Dame, which I'm sure everybody is anxious to hear. And Ty, so I listened to your Big Ten preview. Have the Michigan fans finally worn you down enough to where now you're like, okay,
they didn't wear me down. No.
You seem to be leaning towards
Michigan's a very proud school. They've got a lot of very proud alums. They have been a punching bag on our show on occasion because it's fun. But I think they got a really good team this year. They're my pick to come out of the Big Ten. I just, with the turnover at Penn State, with not knowing whether or not Michigan State can figure out offense after they've done this musical chairs game with their coaching staff on offense. And with a new coach at Ohio State, look, they've got a ton of talent, maybe more talent than any team in the country, but there are just too many unknowns there with a new coach stepping in. And it's say what you want about having your coach in waiting, but it is kind of a coin flip whenever you make a change like that. And I feel more confident in what Michigan's bringing to the table this year, so they're my pick.
Well, and if we're looking at this in the fantasy things context, I mean, it's if we're going hot takey, it's can Harbaugh win the big one or big ones rather? Record against ranked teams, abysmal. Record against Ohio State, very well documented. So it's like, It almost seems it's like, well, now that Meyer's gone, maybe.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, so let's get a little bit into Notre Dame as we wrap this up, because obviously we can only pull so many threads from Notre Dame in the national context. I'm interested to see where you're kind of seeing ND in the context, at least of the Fantasy Things draft, because for me, something that would actually get national talk, it's got to be year 2 QB. That seems to be the only thing I could see him latching on, or do you see something else?
Or year 2 QB mustache, which is apparently a thing. Yeah. I don't know. It's funny because every year I try to draft the most sarcastic possible Notre Dame item, possible storyline that could exist. And they're kind of just like a boring, really good team now, aren't they?
It's weird. It's a really weird situation.
Where's the controversy with Notre Dame? I'm sure they got blown out by Clemson, but so did Alabama. And it's like getting blown out by Clemson isn't quite the black eye that it was.
And then Clemson says that you were better than Alabama
says
anyway.
You're better, so that could be the story. I don't know. But no, they're just sort of a boring, really good team. They've got some issues. They obviously got to figure out the spine of the defense and how they stop the run. But most of the offense is back. They should be pretty good. They've got 3 really tough road games that are going to, I think, ultimately decide the season. And I don't have a Notre Dame item. I have sort of a Notre Dame adjacent item that I'm going to use.
I'm interested to see.
But not anything pertaining to the football team.
Yeah, I mean the only things I'm sitting here writing down is apparently Kyle Hamilton got another 2 interceptions. So apparently
really? he's up to 45 now, right?
Yeah, he's apparently the second coming at safety. So much so, and this is not made up. At a Notre Dame Dallas event, Ryan Harris is speaking. Said, know the name Kyle Hamilton, he's going to win a Heisman. Okay. So we're already out there. So
why not maybe more than one?
Has that ever been done in the history of college football punditry, especially when it comes to Notre Dame?
Never.
Yeah. The other things whose linebacker is it anyways? Because your guess is as good as mine, Ty.
Don't know. No. Next question, please. Thank you.
And then getting really, really insular. This may be a fantasy draft pick amongst ND Twitter, but it is hating Doug Flutie in the booth.
I will defer comment till after my show.
Oh, awesome. Okay, so there is merchandise out there, Ty.
You're sniffing around, okay? You're sniffing around. You're getting a little too close, and I don't like it.
There's merchandise around that I have access to that I can get you.
Okay.
If you ever so feel the need, Ty.
You'll have to tell me what you think.
Just say
after the show this evening.
All right, that'll be awesome. Well, I mean, any other beyond Pat Fitzgerald hating cell phones, I mean, what are some of the other storylines that you're real excited about in the season right now?
Well, it's tough because Clemson versus Alabama seems like such an inevitability. Excuse me. But I'm curious to see who the next team is that rises up. I think a lot of people expect that to be Georgia, but Notre Dame's got Georgia relatively early. And so if Notre Dame sets a precedent or puts down a marker early in the year, if they're able to go to Athens and pull off that upset, could Notre Dame be that team? Could they be that sort of next fiddle up? I don't know. I'm real curious to see what happens with Ohio State. The Ohio State angle to me is super interesting. Justin Fields, all world everything. Yeah. And what
like you say, coach in waiting as well. With
coach in waiting. I mean, there's a lot of turmoil there, and for a lot of good reasons too, not just negative stuff. But if he goes down, they're really thin behind him because Tate Martell transferred out. That to me is fascinating. And another one that I'll just throw in here quickly. Miami, new coach, new quarterback, trying to turn the page now with a Miami guy. That to me is it's going to be cool to see.
Yeah, just about knew everything but a turnover chain.
That's right. That's right. Now, so gotta keep that.
Functional offense is what Miami is looking for right now. We'll get an early week 0 preview.
That's right. That's right.
Next Saturday. All right. Well, thank you so much, Ty, for taking time out of your busy schedule to do this. Tell everybody, I'm sure our Venn diagrams of listenership are a single circle, but just in case, let everybody know where they can find you at, Ty.
Yeah, you can find us at solidverbal.com or anywhere where you download podcasts. We're out there. We do multiple shows per week during the season when we got more game stuff to actually talk about. We broadcast year-round, and free to listen, free to download. The more the merrier. We're just college football nerds like everybody else.
Yeah, and if you happen to be listening to this episode after you listen to the Live Fantasy Things recap whenever it does come out, go ahead and delete that episode from the Solid Verbal, download it again, so that way you now have the extra context.
That's right.
And the insight that you didn't have before.
That's right.
But yeah, thanks, Ty. Thanks for letting me do this interview.
Sure.
And working around, we had tile work going on. Yeah, people moving in and out.
This is an interesting setting at the moment. Yeah.
All right, but looking forward to it. We'll see you later tonight, Ty.
All right.
All right, there you have it. That is the interview with Ty Hildenbrandt, and Shane and I will recap it here in just a second. But this is the point in time where we are going to do a little bit of podcast business. And normally I would be able to mark all this. Guys, you have no idea, and I'm going to mention this at the very end as well, how we are hanging by a thread right now with every recording and streaming right now. So I am afraid to, I just wrote this down. But anyway, this is the point in time on the pod where you'll hear the anchor ad or whatever our mid-roll happens to end up being. But for y'all on Twitch, and I'm going to thank the people that did some subs as we got rolling, so everybody can hear on the pod. But yes, subs are awesome. If you have the ability to do it with Prime, it is absolutely free to you. And of course, remember to spread the word, follow. You get the alerts from us, and of course the bits and the cheers, which are now re-enabled that the interviews are over. Well, with that being said. So Shane, that is the interview there with Ty. I hope you enjoyed the ambiance that we had there.
Oh my God, it was just so intimate.
So backstory on there. I walk in. I know they're running a little bit behind, but I got like scatterbrain brainstorm notes. It's like, well, I'll get there early, kind of organize it so that way I can go, get Ty, because I knew he was on a tight schedule, get it done as quickly as possible, and I'm not scatterbrain. I swear to God, I walk in there and a dude's got a mini jackhammer, just tile and the glue and everything. I can't remember what it is right now.
Like he's waiting. Like, are you recording now?
And I'm sitting there staring. And I'm just like, the fuck am I going to do this interview at? So I finished up my notes and I'm walking around and I find what I think is the one quiet place. And where I failed to realize is that there was something going on not too far away, some kind of event. I don't know what it was. So staff kept coming in and out of the exit constantly. And then some of the workers came by too. And I'm just in my mind thinking like, what the fuck? So I hope everybody enjoyed that.
I mean, it was still a good discussion. I mean, the noise is easy to sift through. I think at this point we all listen to enough podcasts where it's like, there's nothing is safe. Everyone's everywhere.
Yeah.
You do what you're gonna do.
Yeah, Ty was great. Definitely thankful for his time. So, I mean, we got to talk a little bit about the live show that I experienced.
Yes, please.
Without spoiling too much of what's going on, one pick was up there, and that was the Flutie, or really broadcasters in general, because I think they've learned their lessons about going too specific, although I don't know if Dan completely learned it.
Okay.
And saying any broadcaster that gets excited about something they got a stunt for on the network, and for Flutie it was Manifest, which, confession, I actually watch. It's diet loss. It's just good enough to keep me entertained. I enjoy it. I'm a sucker for wanting to see where in the world this is going, which hooked us in. And
I think I saw the first couple episodes and was just like, I don't know. I'll come back to this.
I don't blame anybody, but I will be there until that plane comes crashing down. But yeah, so that was the Flutie adjacent one, and he's like, I want to see what you think about it, because there's a Flutie reference, and I told him I thought it was hilarious. I didn't expect that particular angle, but that was good. And I mentioned it in the Twitch chat as well. Urban Meyer coaching rumors was the number one pick that Ty had, which, I mean, obviously, what else are you gonna do? So I mean,
we did it in our own staff chat this week.
Yeah, we did. We really did. So the live show was really cool. They're doing another leg tonight in DC. So basically, they decided they were going to do 12 rounds, and after they're going to do 6 in Dallas, 6 in DC. So I only know half the rosters right now, and I do have a screenshot of them that I'm keeping under lock and key, because the episode is going to be out on Sunday, so Sunday, Monday-ish, depending on when you decide to refresh your podcast feed. But it was very good. And in typical fashion, anytime they do the fantasy drafts, it's impossible to figure out what they're going to do. And I had basically the Urban Meyer and then the Flutie adjacent pick. Everything else was off the wall.
Okay.
So
Good.
So it's like, okay, you got a frame of reference of like actual college football storylines, and then you have the, well, we're going to make everybody laugh storylines, which is where they steered into, and I loved. But it was great. The Q&A session was a lot of fun. Went a little bit too long for my taste, but it's more of giving fans a chance to do it, so I don't begrudge people that ask questions, save for the person that let it off, who walked up, and I shit you not, I am not making this up, said, and he's wearing an Alabama like kind of shirt / like windbreaker. Yeah, so I graduated Alabama, and I'm a Notre Dame fan, and everybody in the audience is like, what the fuck?
What?
And then his question was basically to call Dan out for giving Ty such a hard time, that, doing the Notre Dame hate bit, basically. He called Dan out on that, asking
giving him shit about, like the Glenn Miller Orchestra type shit. Like,
well,
what?
no, he didn't even do that. He specifically said, but how many titles has Oregon won? It's just like,
no.
You waited this entire time to ask me that question?
That was your moment? That's what you did?
It was hilarious, and Ty played it perfectly, because he's just sitting there in the back. He's thinking, oh, I like this guy. I really like this guy. And Dan's just laying into him, and I had a Texas fan next to me, and I'm just like, oh, and he knows I'm a Notre Dame fan. I'm like, dude, tap out.
Yeah, dude, it's over.
And eventually Dan walked up and grabbed the mic, but there were some weird combinations of Notre Dame fans to where I'm like, how? It was Notre Dame and Duke was another one.
Oh God.
There was some other Notre Dame than Alabama.
This is actually like hurting me.
It was really random. An SC fan managed to pop in there as well, which I was not expecting. Actually drove up from Austin. SC fan.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So there was and we even had a Wazoo fan asking questions up there. So it was an incredible mix. And so it was wildly entertaining. The Q&A stuff doesn't get to be on the podcast. That's the benefit of getting to go to the show. But it was nice to hang out with them there and to get to hang out with Ty a little bit beforehand. And as Jude mentioned in the chat, Ty's very generous of it. I mean, he was on board. It's just like, okay, let's figure out how to make this work. I was like, hey, I'm not planning on this being like a podcast long interview, because I'm sure y'all are going crazy. But one thing that did give me some solace, Shane, one is their planning method is about what made me feel a lot better, because it's similar to what we do.
Come to find out, we're all fucked up.
Yeah. And the person we're going to talk to in a second, Sean Bass, I had mentioned that, that conversation happened. This isn't in the interview. And he's like, yeah, that happens at the radio station too. Like we have ideas of where we're going to go, and it's flying by the seat of our pants day to day.
Then life happens.
And well, and that's the thing, life happening, because they admitted, hey, about week 10, Ty said specifically, week 10, it starts to become a grind. Like, once that calendar flips to November, and it's
tired of shit.
Yeah, and I was like, damn, okay, I feel a lot better about
approaching holidays and planning travel and all this shit. Kid breaks for you guys with children, like, I can only imagine.
Yeah, so it was very entertaining. I had a ton of fun. If you ever had the chance to do a live show, it's absolutely worth it. And both Dan and Ty, even though I focus on Ty, it wasn't because I hate Dan. It's mostly because
fight me, Dan.
I would have lied. I said, hey, if Dan could be a part of the interview, but they're literally like planning and doing the slideshow for it. So. But went up, introduced myself to Dan. He's very approachable, very nice guy. He plays a great persona, but he's and he does it well. He's a perfect foal for Ty. So I had a lot of fun. It was great.
It sounds like an awesome time, man. One of these years, I'm gonna try to get myself up to that.
Yeah, and once I heard they were gonna do DFW, I'm like, I'm there. And I told my wife, like, do you have any interest in listening to a podcast live? And I knew what the answer was going to so I'm like, I will go by myself. That's just fine. But one of the other cool parts about there is, of course, you run into all kinds of people, and that's what we're about to lead into with Sean Bass over at the Ticket. So I had no idea, because we're a very professional sports town in the entire DFW Metroplex. It's Cowboys, it's Mavericks, it's Rangers, it's Stars. So
definitely get that sense, yes.
Yeah, and that's and it makes sense. It makes a ton of sense, and especially for a sports radio station, you're going to mention college football happening, but it's not going to be a focus. So when I saw on Twitter he actually follows me, which I was honestly surprised at first that he followed me, but we interacted every now and then, and I had saw him mention that he was going to be at the event. I was like, well, I never hear this guy talk college football at all. This is cool. So I'm like, hey, on a whim, I was like, would you be interested? And hey, I run this Notre Dame / college football podcast. You want to be on? Yeah, I grew up as a Notre Dame fan. I'm like,
shit.
Wow, let's do this, man. Let's. Why not? So that's the voice you're about to hear is Sean Bass from the Ticket in DFW. Before we get into that, a couple shout outs. One to Jude, who is Andrew Wynn, one in the chat, as well as Milfy for the subs. I believe it might have been Twitch Prime, but we don't care. It's great. It's free. Just do it.
Yeah,
and to also mention J-Train, like the shirt. I neglected to mention it as everything's crashing around for the outline. So this Just Book It shirt, this actually from cracksports.com. And they have all kinds of shirts. The guy's a Notre Dame fan, based out of Georgia. We had a little bit of trade going on, more or less. So he wanted a Quinn for the booth mug. Nice. I said, hey, man, this is kind of tied to Extra Life. I don't know if I can just give this to you. He's like, no, it's cool. So he donated $5 to Extra Life. Got him a mug. I got the shirt. I said, hey, it'll be on stream. So a big hat tip to him. I like the shirt as well. It's nice.
I like Sports Crack, man. They're good people.
Yeah, they are. They're good people. They have some good stuff. Everybody coming up with the merch ideas, and yep. My head's been spinning as well to try to figure some stuff out. But let's go ahead and get back into the interviews. So you're going to hear Sean Bass, who is a UNT grad, but grew up as a Notre Dame fan, and you'll get to hear a little bit about the sports radio that I grew up on back at home. All right, folks, I am joined by Sean Bass, and he is, and correct me if I'm wrong, Sean, you are the sports director of the Ticket
here
in DFW.
That is true, the sports director. That's a very fake management title. I don't wield a lot of power, but it's just a tiny bit. I make a few decisions. Let's just put it that way.
But you have power, and for those of y'all that don't know, and I'll let Sean explain a little more, the Ticket is what I grew up listening to for sports radio. Now, DFW is a very professional sports town, so a happy little accident here that Sean Bass, also listener of the Solid Verbal, so gets to talk a little bit of college football. But Sean, tell a little bit about the Ticket, because it's a very unique way to do sports radio that I think is unlike most any other.
Yeah, we're unique just because we talk sports like you will hear in any other big market, but we also have like a great relationship with our listeners who we call P1s, and we talk about guy stuff, we talk about life, we talk about current events, we talk about pop culture, we talk about you name it, along with the Cowboys and the Rangers and the Mavericks and the Stars and college football during season and big golf majors. So it sort of captures the entire spectrum of life. It's guy talk. It's not just sports. It's music. It's movies. It's you name it. And I think because we very early on as a radio station said, look, talking sports all the time can be good, but people get tired of that. If you can talk about some other aspect of your life, the listener's going to relate to that a lot more than just talking about Jerry Jones and the latest goings on at Valley Ranch or now the Star. You know what I mean?
Yes, absolutely. And that's part of why the Solid Verbal resonated with me, is because Dan talks about his food.
Right.
Ty talks about his life, even if he doesn't tell us what that mysterious day job is.
And honestly, I mean, what they've done organically would fit right in with our radio station.
Absolutely.
I feel like they would be one of the most popular shows if they were on our station, and that's what I gravitate to, because I grew up listening to the Ticket just like you did. God, I've been there 18 years now. We're in our 25th year. But early on, I mean, as a junior high and high school kid, I was fascinated with the culture that the Ticket created. I wanted to be a part of that. Luckily, I was able to be. But listening to the Solid Verbal for what feels like the better part of a decade now, and getting to meet those guys tonight, it feels like that, this is something I'm very used to. And that's why when I'm not listening to our station, I'm tuned into this podcast.
Yeah, and folks, if you're ever wondering kind of where we try to look for ways to differentiate ourselves, it is partly stuff that you hear on the Solid Verbal, also very much of what I listen to in the Ticket, because like
they have their own lingo, their own lexicon, they've created their own little world.
Yeah.
And when you meet people out in the wild that, you might hear some Ticket lingo, or you might hear something, you reference something on the Solid Verbal, or see somebody in a Solid Verbal t-shirt, there's that knowing nod. It's like its own secret handshake out in society.
Yeah, it's a community that gets built. It makes you feel like a part of that community, because we have people here from all over, man. We even had a Wazoo fan asking questions.
How crazy was that? I mean, I've been to Pullman. There's nothing in Pullman. It's in the middle of nowhere, man.
Here? It's
I know.
Incredible.
Like, that must have taken you days.
All right, so the other reason I wanted to make sure to interview Sean, because you took a shot in the dark, and when we were talking, I had no idea, because I get to listen to Sean mostly talk Rangers. This is the most I get to hear.
That's what I'm known for at the station, yes.
Getting to do Diamond Talk post-game Rangers shows, but
college football is my second favorite thing.
Yeah, and I had no idea that you grew up a Notre Dame fan.
Yep. Like many people in DFW, they were on TV every week, NBC or ABC. You were going to see the Irish play. Every game was nationally televised, and I had a father who loved Joe Montana, and he passed that down to me. And then, the 49ers in the 80s and 90s were like the team. So as a little kid, I gravitated towards that, and I figured out Joe Montana played for Notre Dame. So, boom, that's who I pulled for. And yeah, I mean, I did not go to Notre Dame like you did. I went to North Texas, and I've I don't want to say I've pulled away from the Irish in recent years, but I just pay more attention to what my school's doing, like many adults do. But I still keep a close eye on what the Irish are doing. In fact, I was at the Cotton Bowl last year when we didn't score a touchdown.
Yeah, we cannot talk about that for the rest of this time.
Right.
But no, I mean, let's talk a little bit, because we were reminiscing before the Solid Verbal show started about some of the memories and stuff. So kind of what stood out to you when you were watching Notre Dame growing up?
I mean, Lou Holtz, the 88 team with Tony Rice. I mean, that's the first real big football memory I had when they beat Georgia Tech in 88, and I believe the Fiesta Bowl, right?
Virginia Tech was 88.
Was it Virginia Tech?
No, did I just... No, it was West Virginia.
West Virginia, yes, that was
gracious.
it. Yeah, you're right. That was the Fiesta Bowl, yeah. And then the next year they played Colorado in... Was that the Orange Bowl? And Rocket had the big return that would have put Notre Dame up, but there was the quote-unquote block in the back.
They
which
should have been touchdown.
Should have been touchdown. And that was my first, real sports pain as a young lad. So to see them have success after that sort of taught me what it was like to be a fan, because I was the Rick Meyer era. I think to me, the 93 team, that was the most memorable year of being an Irish fan, simply because I was an 11-year-old kid, and that's when you're in elementary and junior high, that's when you start to really care about sports, and all your friends care about sports. And the Irish went on this incredible run, and then they won one of the games of the century over Florida State in South Bend the week prior. But then they go host, I think, a 15th ranked Boston College team with Glenn Foley as their quarterback.
I can already hear people throwing their phones against the wall now.
Who is their head coach who coached for the Giants? His name's escaping me right now. Tom Coughlin, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and that was a good Boston College team, but you just knocked off Florida State. You're the number one team in the country. All you got to do is win this game and go win your bowl, and the Irish have their first national title in 5 or 6 years. But I'll be damned. Boston College played a hell of a game. Notre Dame got down by, I think, 24 points, but somehow a Kevin McDougal ran offense with Lee Becton in the backfield and Ray Zellers as your fullback. They just went on this furious rally in the second half and actually took the lead But then Boston College got the ball back with a couple of minutes and drove downfield. And Glenn Foley, who went on to play for the Jets, was a good NFL quarterback, threw a pass over the middle, and linebacker Pete Bursich had the ball right in his hands. It went through his hands, down his back, and I believe Ray Burris, the safety, tried to come in and catch it. It was just a nanosecond too late, and the ball hit the ground. So the drive continues. They get in field goal range, and a barefooted, left-footed kicker for Boston College hits a field goal at the gun to rip my little heart out. And I still have the game on VHS.
Oh, wow.
Every now and again, I will go back and watch it simply because I wanted to be reminded of that era of Notre Dame football. It takes me back to my childhood. But also, if you take a step back and take your heart away, that was one of the best football games I've ever seen in my life. And when people ask me what's the best game I've ever seen, it was that game against Boston College, because that game had a little bit of everything, considering the stakes, considering the talent, considering the coaching. It was one of the most underrated classic college football games of our lifetime that nobody ever talks about.
Yeah, and when we talk about it, it's in the hushed tones and everything.
No, and
yeah.
I totally understand that. But now that I've gotten older, and I'm not saying I'm still a Notre Dame fan, but I still like my school more.
Oh,
I mean,
obviously, yeah.
I spend my time and my effort in following Seth Luttrell and Mason Fine and the Mean Green Eagles, and it's just. Once I got into college and I started doing radio stuff, and I was doing the pregame show for UNT, that's when I sort of transitioned away from the Irish towards my school, which I think is acceptable because that's what you're supposed to do. That's your school. That's who you need to be pulling for.
Absolutely.
You need to be a good alum.
People that have listened to me long enough knows really my Notre Dame consciousness. It's funny, about the time you really shifted into UNT, it was about a couple years prior to me coming in, because I started going to Notre Dame in 2003.
Yeah.
I was Cowboys. Until that. College football was just kind of a thing that was on TV. Right. No real affiliations. But let's talk a little bit about UNT as well, because
sure.
They're very much worth talking about. Something we don't get to cover as much here. They're basically in my backyard. I live about 15 minutes from their stadium.
Great little stadium.
It really is. It really is. And Denton, Texas, underrated college town as well.
Oh, I mean, Denton, America is. There's two colleges there. There's North Texas. There's also Texas Women's University. So being a college student there was great, because there was a lot of girls at UNT, even more girls at T-Dub. And it's such a cool little town. It's very artsy. It's kind of got an Austin vibe to it, but a small town feel. You can walk across campus and there might be a jazz band practicing. It's a huge music school, so all the bands that get created from college students there, I mean, you can go to any club any night and see live music, even during the week. And it's such a good vibe. I still go back there to see friends, and I think to myself, I could probably live in Denton again one day once my kids are grown, because it's got such a good small town feel to it. But growing up in Dallas, I didn't think I would want to stay local, but that's the type of town that I would want to live in one day when I'm retired.
Yeah, and a great run of college football right now, as you've mentioned, because UNT, I mean, it's funny. One of the last experiments before that was trying to bring a high school coach that was very popular down South Lake Carroll to do
that was
the dodgeball thing.
I had my reservations about that because, okay, it's not just the coach, and I think Todd Dodge is a very smart, borderline brilliant type coach.
It was a big ask.
But you don't bring your high school staff with you.
Yeah.
You need to go find some, maybe even retread college coaches, guys that have been there and done that and understand what it takes to plug into a program and actually, acquit yourself professionally.
And recruiting as well.
And recruiting. I mean, it set that program back, especially after Daryl Dickey, because people, North Texas fans remember, but back when UNT was in the Sun Belt, they went to the New Orleans Bowl every year because they were the Sun Belt champs. They dominated that conference for 4 consecutive years, and things went sideways with Daryl Dickey and the administration. They bring on Todd Dodge, which got a lot of local buzz because the South Lake Carroll Dragons were just this massive Texas powerhouse. But him not bringing in good coaches around him really set the program back 5-6 years, and it took a long time. I think Dan McCarney did an okay job of getting it back to a level of respectability. Went to a bowl and won the Heart of Dallas Bowl over, I want to say that was UNLV about 5 or 6 years ago. But Seth Luttrell's just taken it to a completely new level, and a lot of that also hinges on having a quarterback who's as good as Mason Fine. You read a lot of preseason publications, everybody will say pound for pound he's the best and most talented quarterback in the state of Texas. And I would agree with that because I'm an alum, but watching him the last 3 years and now thankfully a senior season, hopefully he stays healthy and stays upright behind an offensive line that might not be that good. But he's the type of guy that if he were 3 inches taller, he wouldn't be at UNT. If he were 4 or 5 inches taller and bigger, he'd be an NFL prospect. But because he's at North Texas, because UNT was the only team that offered him a scholarship, there's a chance if he wants to, I don't know, continue his football career, he's going to be a CFL quarterback. And I wouldn't bet against that guy if he went to the CFL.
So, obviously got decent quarterback situation. What else would drive, or flipping around the channels on a Saturday or Thursday or Friday, whenever UNT may end up being on? What would drive us to the channel to go check UNT out?
I think their receiving core is really good, too. They got a kid named Rico Bussey Jr., who I think is just a very underrated Division I type. I mean, he's going to put up a lot of numbers this year. They got a kid named Lawrence, who's the slot kid. I mean, I am not going to say he's Cole Beasley or a Wes Welker because I think that's just a very lazy, comp. But he's that type of small, white, quick slot receiver. And they've got some running back health coming back this year. And, I mean, the defense is just always a question mark. And UNT's in Conference USA, and we always joke around. Conference USA stands for what it is, but CUSA also stands for can you stop anyone? And that's the big question. UNT actually had a good defense, better defense last year. They stopped some people and won 9 games. They had some graduates, and we'll just see what they can do defensively this year. I don't know, but they're going to have to outscore a lot of their opponents this year on the schedule. But as long as we beat SMU, it doesn't matter.
There you go. Yeah.
Whatever happens, as long as we beat the Ponies, I'm fine.
Hear that, Eddie? So I do a podcast with a fellow degenerate, Notre Dame grad, but went to law school at SMU.
That's fine,
so,
fair.
You just took a shot at his Ponies.
There's fine people at SMU, but they do look down their nose at us, so I want to beat them very badly.
The college football rivalries, they're everywhere.
But it's actually cool that North Texas and SMU have forged a rivalry.
Yes, absolutely.
For a long time, they didn't want to play us. Now that we're in the middle of this 10-year contract, it's really cool to either go to Dallas or up to Denton and have that as a staple of their non-conference every year, and now it's an actual legit rivalry where there's a little around the office there's some bragging rights to be thrown around, and that's what it's all about.
Exactly. Well, and you've also sound like you've resigned that coaching situation may end up changing. Maybe things will get a little bit different.
I was surprised he didn't go to K-State. I mean, there was all the rumors about Seth Pettrell going to K-State, and I thought that makes sense.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you want to go to the Big 12? I mean, he's an Oklahoma guy. He played fullback at Oklahoma during their national title team back in 2000, I want to say. And I feel like that there's going to be a big Power 5 job waiting for him after this year's over if UNT does what I think they're going to do, which is win about 8 or 9 games.
Yeah, and how is that as a fan when you're a mid-level team, a group of 5, that if
you're a stepping stone.
Yeah, you find a good. How does that feel in there? Do you have the sense of dread, or is it just something you accept as a part of kind of the college football circle of life, if you will?
They had like a 1-win season under McCarney there at the end. They got destroyed by Portland State at home. So, look, I mean, the fact that they're going to bowl games every year now, I'm just happy. The fact that people don't just completely scoff and laugh at my school, I'm happy about that. And I say what you will about Conference USA, it's not a great conference, but there's every now and again a few teams that you have to respect. And the fact that you get Houston, and Houston's coming to Denton next year, that's fun. The fact that UTEP is in the conference, Rice is in the conference, those are Texas schools. That's something that you never had when North Texas was part of the Sun Belt. So it might not be a huge step up conference-wise, but it's a lot better than it used to be.
That's awesome. Well, I will definitely have to make sure to check out a couple of games while Seth Luttrell is still there.
Yeah, you should come up, man.
To see how,
come up for the Ponies game, or the SMU game is going to be in Dallas.
Okay.
So
now the Denton side is actually closer to me now. So
that's
I'm
right.
I've been to a UNT basketball game. I have not gotten to go to a football one.
The fabulous Super Pit. It's like mini reunion arena.
That is a great description of it. It really is a mini reunion. Well, Sean, thank you so much for joining. Also tell people, because now we're in the days of apps and podcasts and everything, so just because the Little Ticket is a DFW radio station, that doesn't mean that's the only place on the airwaves that they can hear them. I believe there's apps, podcasts, so tell people where they can find.
Well, there's the Sports Day Talk app, which is actually the Dallas Morning News app, but they're a media partner of ours, and you can hear our station streaming live all the time, and it's pretty cool because, like, say you miss something, you can back it up an hour. So that's kind of neat. And www.theticket.com and AM and FM, and we're all over the place. We're worldwide.
All right, Sean, thanks so much.
Anytime.
Well, there you have it. There's so I think people figured out with the technical difficulties that we're having over here. I'm glad we're still on the air right now. I mean, literally, that's happiness in one. So the alerts should have been muted. They are not. Thankfully, it was just a couple donations here and there, and it was a text-to-speech. Thank God. Good Lord. But anyway, those are dueling $14 donations. So Milfy and Jude are going back and forth right now. Thank you all very much for the donations. And thank you, J-Train, for the sub. That was that little ding that you heard. But many thanks to Sean for coming on. Hope he never needs to do a real air check on this. In the middle of it, like, what the hell was that?
So that happened.
But yeah, that was Sean, and really it was cool to get to interview him because a lot of what I try to do when I see us being different, a lot of it comes from what I grew up listening to on the ticket. Being able to not take stuff as seriously. That's why we have a sim to begin with. I mean, look, it is the most accurate prediction method in all of college football.
Scientifically.
But it's also a hell of a lot of fun. And that's the main reason we do half of anything here is the idea is have fun, and that ends up reaching out to whatever community you manage to build. And that's really what the ticket did. And they had consultant after consultant always come into that station saying, like, what are you doing? You guys don't take enough phone calls. You don't do the classic sports radio stuff like we do here in the Northeast. And like, yeah, we're never going to do it like that.
Nope.
Just not. So it's what's made them successful. And like I said, it's what drew me to the Solid Verbal and Sean as well. And he's not joking when he says they could be very successful if they were on the air in the station, because that's the kind of stuff people like.
Exactly.
It's that kind of banner and that kind of talk. So it was really cool. A chance to get, I was like, talk UNT as well, because, well, what chance are we going to have to actually talk about North Texas in any capacity, much less with somebody that actually knows what they're talking about?
Yeah, well, apparently the only context is also rehashing the PTSD of the Boston College game.
Yeah, which it was the first time I got to hear anybody describe that as, I still have that game and I rewatch it because it's a good game. And
I'm like, what?
It's like you've definitely been able to grow past your Notre Dame fandom, because there ain't no
either that or you're so broken you've come full circle. I can't tell.
Either that or it's like the near interception. You're like, yeah, he intercepted that ball. Click, and I'm going to go walk off here. And nothing happened in the polls that year to screw us over. But yeah, it was a great interview, great time. Really cool to be brought together, by the common love of a podcast of all things. To come see a podcast live at a movie theater, have some beers, get to talk. Ran into somebody from the Notre Dame club as well. So that was fun. But yeah, it was a good time overall, Shane. Definitely, if they ever find their way down to your area, go 100%.
Absolutely. Oh, trust me, I'm ready.
All right, so we're done with all the interviews, but much in the vein as they would do on the ticket or the Solid Verbal, we have some very important non-college football stuff to talk about. Shane, I am just going to let you take the floor on this one, because this is your thing. This is absolutely your thing coming here.
Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, you may or may not have heard recently that there's a new chicken on the block. Popeye's Chicken has come out with a chicken sandwich of their own. And guys, people of all walks of life, stop what you're doing and pay close attention, because this is, and not an exaggeration, the single best chicken sandwich I have ever eaten.
Okay, now you're really building this up, because everybody said it's good, and these are my lunch plans for tomorrow we're talking about here.
Okay, so let me just give you some context. The way I seek out my chicken sandwiches, I'm not a huge fan of grilled chicken between bread. Something about the combination of like proper chicken breast cooked, normally, and thrown in a sandwich with mayo and pickles. It just feels kind of like an improper union. So I'm always very wary of chicken sandwiches. Obviously, you have your Chick-fil-A staple. Everyone has had that spicy chicken sandwich at one point or another. But this is just a different. This is a different animal because I mean, it's not just the Popeyes chicken. So you have your Chick-fil-A sandwich, which has I guess you could describe it as more of like a flaky crisp in the breading. It's very thin. It does a lot of the heavy lifting in terms of the spice itself, being like mixed inside the breading that they use. But it's more of like a thin, crispy, kind of light crunch, not much of a crunch. It's just more of a texture.
It doesn't feel like the fried chicken, the super crispy, and
Right.
you're going to have this weird combination of very soft bun and razor sharp shit that's going to cut your teeth.
No, which is a risk you run when you get things like, if you were to throw a set of Publix chicken tenders, like they can come out jagged. They have a double breading process in a lot of these places.
Right,
but
yeah.
Does the single. The Popeyes chicken the breading. I'm not sure if they double bread it, but you can tell that actually putting the work into breading and frying that Popeyes breading, it's all about how the texture combines throughout the sandwich. So you got the 2 pieces of bread, which are standard. This comes with essentially like a mayo sauce, but you get the spicy one. So before anyone asks you, there are 2 options, right? You get the regular Popeyes chicken sandwich or the spicy one. There is no other one. It's just the spicy one.
And that's Popeyes to begin with. If you're going to go to Popeyes, you got 2 choices.
Spicy chicken.
Spicy or the wrong choice.
Right, exactly. So you get the spicy one, and the way Popeyes does their spice, as opposed to Chick-fil-A, is Chick-fil-A does it in the seasoning. It's overwhelmingly on the chicken.
Mm-hmm.
And Popeyes, they do the smattering of like mayo with spiciness in the sauce. So it's a spread on the bread that then rests on the chicken. It's not covering the piece of chicken. The piece of chicken itself is like 1.5 inches thick. Okay.
Whoa.
It is incredibly thick, but it is like just the juiciest, tenderest chicken all throughout. Like there was a point where I pulled out the equivalent of like a saber-tooth fang of just white breast meat because of how thick it was. And that set aside and just like slid across the table. It was so moist. I mean, it is incredible. And then that coupled with the breading itself, I keep coming back to the breading is because it is like the vehicle of all the flavor on this sandwich. The breading has that popcorn texture type where it has those pockets of explosions of flavor every time you bite in. So that every time you essentially take a bite, you're popping the chicken into your mouth. It's the oils in the breading explode all over the chicken all at once into your face. And I'm not trying to seem hyperbolic, but like I thought about getting another one every hour after I finished it today.
Oh, so this is going to be great for my diet is what you're telling me. Like I'm planning my day.
No, I fully acknowledge that if I did, and this is going to fuck my shit up because I'm about to go on vacation after this coming week for like 10 days, and I'm gonna get fat, and I'm okay with that. I'm not gonna lie. This sandwich is incredible, dude. It is. First and foremost, I go no pickles. I don't know how about anyone else is a pickle purist or what have you. I'm a no pickle guy because I'm a big fan of letting the chicken shine. I want it to do all the work and tell me it's here and prove it. And this thing blew me away. I mean, the way I tweeted it, I felt like I am now perpetually elevated. My existence state from now on will not go beneath what I have achieved today.
Oh wow! Yeah, I like the pickle. Chick-fil-A turned me on to putting a pickle on a sandwich because I was like, yeah, it doesn't sound like it goes on a chicken sandwich. So
the Chick-fil-A it does though because that's the recipe.
Yeah. So, I mean since then, I'm like, yeah, I'll roll with it when I have it for lunch tomorrow, or rather today when you're listening to this podcast. So you can. I'm sure I will be live tweeting the experience because
I want everyone to go. Just get the spicy chicken sandwich from Popeyes and then delete the Chick-fil-A app from your phone because you don't need that shit anymore.
Awesome. Oh no, I'm highly looking forward to it. And now. See, the only thing I'm concerned about is sometimes, depending on the Popeyes you get to, things can get a little dicey.
That is absolutely a factor.
So that's the only thing I'm worried about.
I live in South Florida. The closest Popeyes to me is by the beach, and in Florida, as you approach the beach, things get worse. So,
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see what happens. Actually, the bigger concern isn't that it's going to get messed up. It's more that, it'll be about a half hour till that sandwich is ready. That's what I mean.
Exactly.
Because, and this was when we were moving. We were putting stuff into temp storage from our old house before we moved here a couple years ago. And the storage facility, Popeye's right next to it.
Yep.
So all day long, I am just smelling that wonderful spicy chicken. And I'm like, oh. I told her, I was like, look, after this, babe, we're going to get Popeyes on the way home. We got to do this. So we roll up there, we wait in the drive-thru, and it's like, can I take your order? Like, yeah, we want spicy chicken. Well, sorry, we don't have any spicy chicken. Like, well, how much longer is it going to be? Oh, it'll probably be about an hour. And we have some, we got chicken tenders. You want that? I'm like, well, the spicy ones there? No, that'll probably be about 30 minutes. I'm like, what the fuck? I don't understand that. It's like, it's literally the one thing.
I've been like, is someone seasoning them right now? What the fuck are you guys doing?
I don't understand. Like, they have to be defrosting or something at this point. It's so fucking
what it was, to be honest. Someone forgot to put it out.
Yeah, and there was no bigger disappointment than that. And literally was like, well, I want spicy chicken now, so we bailed on that and went to the Wendy's next door to get a spicy chicken sandwich, and I was just
Which is not a bad option. Number two,
it's not bad, but man, when you want that Popeyes,
Popeyes,
I will stand for Popeyes any damn day of the week.
I'm telling you guys, man, this is. I mean, I genuinely want you all to try it. You all deserve to be this happy.
So how filling is it though? You said the chicken's huge, so
the chicken's very thick. It's only about 700 calories, the sandwich itself, but the bread is doing very little work. It's basically holding everything in place. The bread is not thick. In terms of eating a sandwich, if I eat a Wendy's chicken sandwich, I feel much fuller than I felt after eating this.
Okay, that's interesting because I'm starving after Chick-fil-A.
Right. Okay, I agree with you. I'm in the same position. But this didn't leave me hanging like Chick-fil-A did.
All right.
It left my body working, but not the kind of working where you get like, what we call in our family ethnic fatigue. Like not that kind where you're debilitated for a couple of hours. But,
oh my god!
But you get the, like I said, I tweeted this as well. Either you feel like you could take a 3-hour nap, or maybe run a 5K. Either's possible because your body's just good. It's like everything's just balanced.
Yeah, because I'm trying to restrict the calorie count, so I'm like being really specific here and trying to estimate what the chicken sandwich is going to be and everything. I have planned tomorrow around this chicken sandwich.
I'm still thinking about it. Like I made lunch for work, and I'm like, I might just forget it.
Damn! I have to go to the Popeyes. All right, well, I'm excited. I hope everybody's excited for the last part of this podcast getting filled with chicken sandwich snack talk. Hashtag Snack Talk is back in place.
Brighten up your lives.
But Shane, we made it. We survived. I'm gonna have to take. So during one of the interviews, I sent Shane a picture in our Discord chat, our DM. I'm gonna have to post another one because the situation is actually worse now.
It's bad, guys. His shit is wrecked. I don't know how we made it this far.
I'm honestly terrified that when I close everything, I have no audio. I'm going to basically have to go into Audition and record the live stream, and that is going to be your podcast. I'm legitimately terrified of that right now.
Let's just hope.
All right. Well, with all that being said, I believe the outro is still going to work. There we go. All right. Well, thank you, everybody, even though it was a little bit too loud there. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Of course, make sure that you follow us over on twitch.tv/ForLoyalSons. Join us live. We'll be back with Wednesday for Future Picks with Eddie. And again, $5 donation, extralife.ndtext.com. We'll get you into the private sim on Thursday. And until next time, we're getting rolling, guys. Y'all have a good one.